good evening. We are back with yet another interesting episode today. So many of you might not find this very interesting, but we have figured out a way as to how to relate to all of you guys out there. So the topic for the iPi live talk show today is math and Indian mythology. Usually, when I say the word mythology, it's about something which is traditional, ancient, some stories, some build ups. But is it just that? Or can we even see math in it? Many of you might get bored with this term, relating it to Mahabharata, Ramayana, and may not be of any fascination. So let's see if we can add art pinch of touch to it and make it more interesting for you. So for this very reason, we have two very interesting people today with us, Akriti and Rekha. So I'll not introduce themselves. I'll give this opportunity to them so that they can take it forward from here. So before we begin, I would like each one of them to just give a one line about themselves before we start with this discussion of our mythology. So Akriti, we begin with you.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Shavi, for inviting over. I believe that this is a very interesting topic, and we will, I think, get to learn a lot of things with this. So I'm a content writer and editor at igebra, and yes, besides a lot of other things also that all of us do, but I think that's my main thing.
Okay, Rekha, just give a one-liner of introduction, please.
I am Rekha. I am the business development executive with igebra.
Okay. So guys, whenever we used to learn history or something related to social sciences, mythology is something we all have been taught in our schools. But it's often very boring for people. People tend to sleep, kids tend to sleep during the history classes, and they have no amusement in it. So what do you think? When I say the word mythology today, what comes in your head first? So Rekha, what does it come into your head when I say the word math and mythology?
Mythology, as the word itself suggests, it has the word myth in it. So a collection of myths, and those myths which are related to a particular culture or civilization. So we have Indian mythology, we have Greek mythology. So it is nothing but a collection of myths.
All right. So Akriti, what comes into your head when I say mythology?
As Rekha ma'am has already said that mythology is related to a particular sect or a culture or tradition or something like that. When I hear the term mythology and math, the first thing that pops up to my mind is maybe Mahabharata and Ramayana. So, the use of mathematics in both of these things, because we've been, brought up watching these serials on television. So I clearly remember my grandmother used to, make me watch these programs, and I was just not interested in that. But every Sunday it used to be a ritual that we have to watch this thing with her. And yeah, that's all.
Okay, so as Akriti is mentioning, I remember during the pandemic time how Ramayana and Mahabharata came back on television again, and it was such a boom, and great TRP it had, because I think somewhere deep down all our parents feel it's important to know the mythology, because otherwise everyone knows it, but then they tend to relate it with different stories which might be false as well. So, but today we're not talking about mythology in particular as to it's right or it's wrong. We are not going into those controversies, but we are focusing on math and mythology. For me, as a person, I have never seen math in Mahabharata and Ramayana. So that's why I have Rekha and Akriti with me, so that they can enlighten me and other people out there also like me who just watched it for the sake of watching. So, Akriti, what do you think about this topic that we have brought today, math and mythology? Do you think math exists, number exists?
So when I hear both of these terms together, the first thing that pops into my mind is Vedic math. So I was reading about what is Vedic math, and how and what led it back to our lives. So it was in the year 1965 when Jagat Guru Shri Bhartiya Krishna Tirath Maharaj, he published a book on Vedic math in that same year. And that year he discovered that there are almost 16 mathematical formulas which are a part of one of our Veda, which is Athar Veda. And his discovery is basically to make calculations much easier. That is the only whole thing wherein he has discovered these things. So it was quite fascinating for me when I read about it.
All right. So let's ask Rekha now, what does she think about math and mythology? Are they connected or no? It's a myth. Like mythology, is this also a myth or no?
Definitely not a myth, Charvi, because if we go back to the roots of Indian civilization, all the Vedas, there is one section of Vedas which we call as Yajurvedam. And under Yajurvedam, we have lot of other, branches. In one of that is we have something which is related to, it is called Dhanurvedam, which is related to about war. So in Dhanurvedam, it is amazing how they have used mathematics, even to build their weapons and how to design your battlefield. Everything was mathematics. So in Mahabharata, if you remember, we have something called as Abhimanyu. He enters, what is it called? I forgot, what is it called? He just enters a maze kind of a construction in a battlefield. Chakravyuham, it is called Chakravyuham. He knows how to enter because he hears it from his mom's womb when Lord Krishna is telling. But then how to come out, he never hears that, and then he cannot make it, and he apparently dies in that war. So the Chakravyuham, the way it was constructed, was nothing but using geometry. So geometry was used back then, even during war, and the very birth of chess, the game of chess, it all stems from the way the wars were waged in India.
Correct.
How the infantry, the elephantry, then how they used the cavalry, the horses. Based on this, the game of chess was constructed. So just look at ancient India, and maths was there right from there. And if you look at Jyotisha, most people think it is some humbug. But Jyoti means light. Jyotisha is not anything but the study of light. The study of light happened then. Then the number pi, which we talked today in our iPi buddies, that pi was done by Aryabhatta back then. And it is there in the 10th sloka of Ganita Pada, which was written by Aryabhatta with 3.14 as the value.
Okay.
So we are talking back then, he wrote about pi.
Yeah, so we did not have any technology back then. So I think at that time, Gurukuls was the system, if I'm not wrong with the word. So they used to study like that. And there has been math involved from like long back.
Long time back, yeah.
Yeah. So is there any other interesting example also? Because I think, Rekha, this is coming out to be very interesting. Never thought of it like that.
So in ancient India, again, back then, they never had any measuring tools and techniques, right? So they always used the rope and the nail to measure. So if they had to measure a circle, they would take a rope and, move it thrice. And that way, that thing was called a Sulabha Sutra, which means using rope. And they had algorithmic thinking back then. They used to write, all the types of methods in which they can arrive at a particular output. So algorithmic thinking that we talk of today was existing in our Vedas so many years back.
Right.
So everything, we should be really proud and really proud that in our Vedas, there is a clear description of all of these. And even the way Rama's bow, the Saranga, was made also had a geometrical inclination. It was 5 feet long. How the arrows were made. Arrows were masculine, feminine, and neutral. So a masculine arrow would have a particular objective, a feminine a particular objective, and a neutral. So masculine one was something which is for a very huge distance. Feminine is for a short distance. Neutral is only for practice purposes. So like that, everything was made. Everything was geometry. And our temples, look at our temples.
Right.
Absolutely.
The golden ratio that we talk about in Greek mythology, all this is stemming up from our ancient India.
Right.
So everything, I can just go on and on and on.
Yeah, so just like we cannot watch the entire Ramayana in one day, we are not letting this end over here. We'll be taking this episode further as well so that we can get to know more about the examples. Now we'll just turn a little from Ramayana and Mahabharata and move towards Akriti, because she spoke about Vedic math. So, Akriti, could you please tell our kids out there what's the difference between the math we study today and the Vedic math that you spoke about?
So there is one very interesting story that it's not basically a story, it's something factual that I've discovered today, that we all of us know that zero was discovered by Aryabhatta one. But then I read something about that, zero was invented long before Aryabhatta. So all of us know that Ravan has 10 heads and Kauravs were 100 and all of these numbers. So Aryabhatta discovered zero much later, even before this thing. So there must have been something which was denoting number zero at that point of time. So this is very, very interesting to know. Plus, yes, we should definitely be very, very grateful, very proud of our heritage, that we are already so advanced. It's just we don't have realize how lucky and how rich we are in our cultural heritage. Coming back to Vedic math, I believe there are a lot of tips and tricks in Vedic math which can make mathematical calculations very easy. So there are there are a lot of shortcuts to make you solve some equation which is long enough and will take multiple steps. With the help of Vedic math, you can actually multiply big numbers in like 199 multiplied by 199. You don't have to calculate the entire thing, and just because of you can add the numbers and then line up in such a manner that
Shortcuts are there. Yeah.
So this is what we should, and definitely this concept is coming up in a lot of schools, a lot of online platforms as well. So yes, it is actually the way to go.
All right. So we have always heard Vedic math is really tough, and so people tend to refrain from going ahead into it. But I think that was really enlightening, Akriti, where you spoke about how there's shortcuts that exist in it, and you don't need like long methods for calculations. You can easily do it. So that's something really nice. So for today, we are wrapping up this show, but definitely we are coming back tomorrow with another set of examples in our Indian mythology, because before we proceed with the other mythologies, I think it's very important to acknowledge our own rich cultural heritage and our work of manuscripts, which often I think went unnoticed. And today when we sit and just analyze all of this, we get to know a lot. So thank you so much, Akriti. Thank you so much, Rekha, for being there. But I'm not letting you go like that. You have to give like one-liner wrap-ups for our young minds there, which pertains to math and Indian mythology.
So I found this very interesting fact. See, now we have meters, centimeters, etc. Back then, the measurement was called as angulam. Okay, angulam is like 3 to 4 inches makes 1 angulam. And how would they arrive at that 1 angulam is putting 36 sesame seeds in a row. So 36 sesame seeds in a row would make 1 angulum for them. So, they just use the basic seed and they built math around it. Yeah. So right. It's amazing, we should be so proud.
I know. Akriti, what about you?
I believe when math and Indian mythology are brought together in one context, the only thing that comes to my mind is the fight that took place on the ground of Mahabharata.
Kurukshetra.
Kurukshetra, and everyone is using, a lot of bows and arrows and whatnot. So everything is flying. Someone is using.
Everything is so calculated.
Yeah.
Actually.
Very calculated.
To hit the target, you need to have calculations. Otherwise, it's all.
You have a very, it's so good aim. So I believe it's all maths. Maths is, there in the battlefield. It's everywhere. It's
back then they didn't have time clocks, mobiles, nothing. Just looking at the direction of the stars and the sun and all, they knew exactly what part of the day it was.
Correct.
So amazing knowledge, because they were like always gazing at nature, and nature taught them everything. Unfortunately, the time and era that we live in, we are moving away from it. So I think whoever is the audience and whoever is listening to us, please take this as a hint. On and off, get back to nature. There is a lot of math happening in nature.
Right. That's so true. So thank you, Rekha. Thank you, Akriti. We are coming back with you two tomorrow also. So please have such enlightening facts and such brilliant ideologies that you came up with today so that our audience can get enriched about them tomorrow as well. And yes, help us to shine every day with your interesting knowledge.
Thank you.
My
Thank you.
Pleasure always.
Thank you. Bye-bye.